Ladies, let me tell you something, and I need you to sit down for this one. Pour yourself something warm. Put your phone face down and listen to me like I am your uncle who has watched too many good women give too much of themselves to men who never learned how to receive them. Because tonight, I want to talk to you about 3 places every man secretly longs for tenderness. 3 places he may dream about, but will probably never ask you for directly. And by the end of this conversation, you are going to understand something about men that many women spend years trying to figure out now, before you think I'm about to take this conversation somewhere obvious. Listen carefully. I am not talking about what you think I am talking about. I am talking about something deeper. Something a man may struggle to admit even to himself. Something that can separate the woman he simply enjoys from the woman he begins to value deeply. And baby, once you understand what I am about to explain, you may never again sit there wondering why a man became distant, why he suddenly grew quiet, or why he seemed drawn towards someone you believed had less to offer. You will understand the deeper reason. So let me sit across from you at this kitchen table and explain it the way an older woman might have explained it years ago if she had the right words. Because this is not really a lesson about attraction. It is a lesson about emotional power, your power. The power you were born carrying, but somewhere along the way, you were taught to hand away through one apology, one compromise, and one act of overgiving at a time. See, here is what many people never tell you about men. A man can speak in 2 different languages. There is the language he uses out loud, and then there is the language his deeper emotions speak when the room is dark, the noise has stopped, and he is alone with his thoughts, staring at the ceiling and wondering why he cannot stop thinking about you. And that deeper language is often built around a powerful need, not the need you may immediately imagine. A deeper need, the need to be understood, the need to feel safe, the need to be recognized by one woman in a way the outside world rarely allows him to experience. And there are 3 places connected to that feeling. I am not talking about his body in the way you may be expecting. I am talking about 3 simple places where tenderness can carry a much deeper emotional meaning. 3 places he may never point toward. 3 moments he may never request. 3 simple gestures that, when given with genuine care, can make something inside him soften. And once you understand these things, you may stop chasing men. You may stop begging for attention. You may stop making yourself smaller just to keep someone interested, because you will finally understand something far more valuable than attention: emotional connection. And you may realize you have been carrying that power inside you all along. So let me tell you about the first one, and I need you to lean in because this may land differently than you expected. The first place is his forehead. Yes, his forehead. Not because it is some secret trick, but because of what that simple gesture can communicate. And I know what you are thinking, sister. That sounds almost too simple. It sounds too innocent. It sounds like something you would do without even thinking about it. And that is exactly why it can mean so much. Let me explain. A man can spend his entire day carrying responsibilities nobody else sees. He can carry pressure to provide, pressure to protect, pressure to make decisions, pressure to appear confident even when he is uncertain. From the time many boys are young, they hear messages telling them to stay strong, keep going, do not complain, figure it out. So they grow into men who become experts at hiding exhaustion. They learn to swallow fear. They hide disappointment. They bury loneliness. They push grief down and walk outside wearing a face that tells everyone, I am fine. But sometimes he is not fine. Sometimes he is simply functioning. And here is what can happen when a woman gently kisses his forehead with genuine tenderness. It can communicate something words sometimes fail to say. You do not have to perform for me right now. You can breathe here. You are safe enough to let your guard down. His nervous system, which may have spent years living in a state of pressure and alertness, can finally begin to relax. Something inside him that has been clenched for years can loosen. even if only for a moment. And that moment can matter more than you realize. Stay with me, because the next part goes even deeper. 50 years of pressure can begin to release, and in that moment, you become something to him he may not even have realized he was searching for. You become the one place where he does not feel like he has to perform. You know what I mean, don't you? Maybe you have seen it before. You have seen a strong man become emotional in the arms of a gentle woman. You have watched the toughest man you know suddenly become quiet when a woman touches his face as though he truly matters. And you wondered, what is happening right now? Why did his whole body change? I will tell you what happened. For a moment, he felt seen. And when a man feels deeply seen by a woman's sister, that moment can stay with him for a very long time. Because the world is full of people who may admire his appearance, his success, his confidence, and his strength. But a woman who notices the person underneath all of that becomes different. A woman who offers tenderness where he usually carries pressure can become deeply meaningful. She becomes a reminder that he does not always have to be the strong one. She becomes a place where he can breathe, and that is something many people spend their whole lives searching for. Let me tell you about a woman I know. Let's call her Maya. Maya had been seeing a man for about 8 months, and she could not understand why she constantly felt as though she were auditioning for a role she had already earned. He was affectionate, but still distant. He was present, but heavily guarded. And one day she came to me tired and emotionally worn out and said, I don't know what he wants from me. I have tried everything. I have been sweet. I have been playful. I have been patient. I have given him space, and somehow I still cannot reach him. I looked at her and said, Maya, baby, stop trying to reach him in the places where everyone else already reaches him. People have probably spent years responding to his image, his confidence, his achievements, and his outward strength. Try meeting him where he is tired. She looked at me like she did not understand. So I said, the next time he comes over after a difficult day, don't rush to fill the silence. Look at him. Put your hands gently against his face, bring him a little closer, and give him one soft kiss on his forehead. Then let the moment breathe. Do not explain it. Do not turn it into a performance. Just let him feel it. And baby, she called me about 2 weeks later, and her voice sounded completely different. She said, he cried. Said he became quiet for almost a minute, and then the emotion finally came out. He held her closer than he ever had before. After that, he began opening up about things he had never talked about. He started calling her in the mornings before work. He started sharing the thoughts he usually kept hidden. And she said, I finally feel like I can reach him. Now listen carefully, because this is the part many people misunderstand. It was not the forehead kiss itself that magically changed everything. It was the meaning behind it. It communicated care without demanding anything in return. It said, I see you as a human being, not simply as the strong man everyone expects you to be. That is the real power of tenderness. A man does not need someone who constantly praises his strength. He may deeply value someone who also recognizes his humanity. Behind that face can be worries he has never spoken about. Behind that confidence can be uncertainty. Behind that calm expression can be years of pressure, dreams he has not shared, disappointments he has carried quietly, and fears he learned to hide. When tenderness reaches him in that place, the message can be simple. I see the weight you carry. You do not have to hide all of it from me. And sister, stay with me, because this next part is where many women get it wrong. You cannot manufacture genuine tenderness as a strategy. If you give affection only because you want a certain reaction, people can often feel the difference. Real warmth is not a trick. It's not a secret button you press to control somebody. It comes from genuinely caring about the person standing in front of you. So if you ever offer that kind of affection to the right man, let it come from a sincere place. See him, care about him, give him a moment where he can lower his guard without feeling judged. But remember this too, you are not responsible for fixing him. You are not required to carry every emotion he refuses to face. You are simply offering a moment of human connection. Now, let me tell you what can happen when that kind of emotional safety becomes part of a relationship. He may begin to associate your presence with peace rather than pressure. Not because you have some mysterious power over him, but because humans naturally remember the places where they feel accepted. The outside world may reward him for achievement, money, status, success, and performance. But emotional safety is different. It happens inside, it feels quiet, it feels personal. It feels like being able to breathe around someone without pretending. And when a person experiences that consistently, they may begin valuing the relationship in a completely different way. That is why some people who once avoided commitment eventually choose a stable relationship. It is not always because someone was more beautiful, younger, thinner, or more impressive. Sometimes the difference is emotional compatibility. Sometimes it is the feeling of being understood without having to constantly prove yourself. But baby, hear me clearly, because I do not want you leaving this conversation with the wrong message. I am not telling you to become his mother. I am not telling you to silence yourself, serve his emotions, or turn your entire life into a project centered around keeping him comfortable. Absolutely not. There is a huge difference between being a woman who offers tenderness and being a woman who abandons herself. One creates connection. The other creates exhaustion. You can honor his struggles without carrying them for him. You can understand his humanity without becoming his therapist. You can offer affection and still maintain your standards. You can be gentle without becoming weak. And you can love a man without losing yourself inside his needs. That is the balance. That is the part I need you to remember. You give because you genuinely want to give, not because you are afraid he will leave if you do not. You offer warmth because it reflects who you are, not because you are trying to earn basic respect. And that difference changes everything. Now, let me tell you about the second place. And this one, sister, may sound a little more intimate, but it is still about something much deeper than physical attraction. The second place is the small area where his shoulder meets his neck, that gentle curve where the shoulder rises toward the jaw. You know the place I mean. And I want you to understand why that area can carry such emotional meaning. Think about where people hold tension when life becomes overwhelming. The shoulders. When someone is stressed, the shoulders often tighten. When someone feels threatened, the body becomes rigid. When someone is constantly preparing to handle the next problem, the neck and shoulders can become like armor. A man may walk through an entire day carrying responsibilities that nobody notices. Meetings, bills, family expectations, decisions, problems at work, the pressure to stay composed, the pressure to keep moving even when he is exhausted. And eventually, the body begins to hold what the mind keeps trying to ignore. Now, many people focus only on the obvious signs of attraction. They think about the gestures shown in movies and the moments everyone already expects. But tenderness can also exist in quieter places. When you gently rest your hand near his shoulder, draw him close, and offer a soft kiss near that place where his shoulder meets his neck, the meaning can be completely different from simple physical desire. It can feel like you are acknowledging the part of him that has been carrying tension all day. You are not trying to possess him. You are not trying to control him. You are simply saying through a small gesture, "You can relax for a moment. You are not alone here." And sometimes, sister, that simple message can reach farther than 1,000 words. Because when someone spends most of their life bracing against the world, the experience of being around someone who does not demand another performance can feel deeply comforting. But keep listening, because there is an important distinction coming next. The goal is never to use tenderness as a technique for making someone dependent on you. The goal is connection, not control. You should never have to manipulate someone's emotions to make them stay. A healthy relationship is built on mutual care, honest communication, respect, boundaries, and choice. That is where real power lives. Not in making someone unable to leave, but in creating a relationship where both people freely choose to remain. And when a man can experience your warmth while also seeing that you have your own identity, your own standards, your own life, and your own direction, the relationship becomes something much healthier. So remember the lesson behind these simple gestures. It is not about finding a secret button that controls a man's feelings. It is about learning how small moments of genuine tenderness can communicate what words sometimes cannot. And if you remember nothing else from this conversation, remember this: the woman who truly sees a man's humanity does not need to chase him. She does not need to compete with every other woman. She does not need to prove that she is enough. She knows her value, gives love from a place of choice, and allows a man to meet her there. And that, sister, is where the real transformation begins. Not because you forced it, but because you respected what it meant. Let me explain the deeper psychology, because I want you to understand this on a level you can truly feel. A man's shoulders can become a place where he carries his identity as the protector. Many men grow up believing their role is to shield the people they care about. Shield them from danger, shield them from hardship, shield them from disappointment, shield them from the problems they believe they should solve. And that responsibility can become heavy every single day. Yet many men carry it quietly because they were taught that a strong man does not complain about the weight he carries. When you offer tenderness near that place, slowly and gently, you can communicate something very few people ever say to him. You can say without speaking, "I notice what you carry. I notice how often you stand guard. And for this moment, you do not have to hold everything alone." Sister, do you understand how powerful that kind of recognition can be? Think about how few people may have ever spoken to that hidden side of him. His mother may have loved him deeply, but she may also have depended on his strength. Previous partners may have cared about him, but they may have expected him to remain strong. Very few people stop and acknowledge the tired person underneath the strong exterior. Very few people look at that guarded man and say, "You can rest here for a moment. Let me care about the person behind the armor." And that is where genuine tenderness can become meaningful. It is not about making him weak. It is about reminding him that he is allowed to be human. And baby, that difference matters more than you think. Stay with me, because the next part shows exactly what this can look like in real life. Let me tell you about another woman. We will call her Rachel. Rachel had been married for 11 years, and one day she came to me and said, "My husband and I have become roommates. We are kind to each other, we respect each other, we function well together. But something feels missing. The connection is gone, and I do not know how to bring it back without begging him to notice me." And she said, "I refuse to beg." I told Rachel the same thing I'm telling you. I said, "Stop trying so hard to impress him. Try to understand him. Try to see him." Then I gave her a simple idea. I said, "When he sits down on the couch after work, do not immediately ask 100 questions. Do not rush to fill the silence. Walk over, look at him, place your hands gently on his shoulders, then give him one slow, affectionate kiss near the place where his shoulder meets his neck. After that, step away and continue with your evening. Do not explain it. Do not demand a reaction. Let the moment speak for itself."
She called me the next morning,
and her voice had changed. She said, "He followed me into the kitchen about 10 minutes later and asked me what that was. And she simply smiled and said, 'That was me remembering you.'" He stood there quietly for a long moment. Then he pulled her into a hug and held her for so long that she wondered if he ever intended to let go. And that night, something opened between them. They talked for hours about things they had not discussed in years. They talked about who they used to be. They talked about who they had become. They talked about what they still wanted. They talked about what had been missing. And Rachel told me, "I feel him again. For the first time in years, I feel like I can actually reach the person I married." Now, that is the lesson. It was not some magical kiss that repaired their marriage. It was the emotional message behind the moment. It interrupted their normal routine. It created space for tenderness. It reminded them that underneath the responsibilities, the bills, the schedules, and the daily routine, there were still two human beings who wanted to be known by each other. And sister, that is why small moments can sometimes matter so much. Not because they control another person, but because they can open a door that ordinary conversation sometimes struggles to find. But now I want to warn you about something, Because this is where many women can misunderstand everything we have been talking about. Once you discover what makes someone feel seen, there can be a temptation to turn that knowledge into a weapon. You may think, if I know exactly what he responds to, I can use it to keep him attached to me. No, do not go there. The moment tenderness becomes a calculated strategy, something changes. Affection starts feeling like a transaction. You may still be smiling, you may still be touching him gently, but somewhere underneath it there is an expectation. And people can often sense that difference even when they cannot explain it. Their body notices, their emotions notice, their instincts notice. A person who once felt relaxed around you may eventually begin to feel pressure instead. And you may wonder what happened. The answer can be simple. The warmth stopped being genuine and became a technique. And technique cannot replace truth. So when I talk about these three places, I am not giving you a manipulation guide. I am giving you a language of tenderness, but you can only speak that language honestly when you genuinely care about the person in front of you, when you respect him, when you choose him freely, and when you are not giving affection because you are terrified he will leave. If he is not the right man for you, you do not owe him access to your tenderness. Walk away, protect your peace, save your deepest affection for someone who has earned your trust. Because these gestures are not meant for every man who shows interest. They belong inside relationships where respect, safety, consistency, and genuine care already exist. You are not a waiting room where someone comes whenever he needs comfort. You are not a place where somebody can take what they need and disappear again. You are a whole person. You have boundaries, you have standards, you have a life. You have a heart that deserves protection, and the person who enters that space should understand its value. Now, do you hear me? This is not about becoming harder, it is about becoming wiser. There is a difference. All right, sister, now let me take you to the third place, because this one may be the deepest of them all. This is where the conversation moves beyond attraction and into emotional connection. The third place every man may deeply long for tenderness is his heart, not simply his chest, his heart. And I need you to understand the difference, because it changes the entire meaning of the gesture. The chest is physical. It is the part everyone can see. But when we talk about his heart, we are talking about the emotional center of his life, the part that may have been protected by years of disappointment, fear, responsibility, and silence. His heart can sit behind all those layers, behind the habits, behind the confidence, behind the jokes, behind the calm expression he shows the world. And when I say kiss his heart, I mean something simple and deeply affectionate. Let your ear rest against his chest for a moment. Listen to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, then place a gentle kiss over that place and stay there for one quiet moment. Not a quick gesture, not something rushed. Let it be calm. Let it communicate presence. You are not trying to create some dramatic reaction. You are simply saying, I am here with you. And sometimes, sister, that message can reach places that words cannot, because there are moments when a person does not need advice. They do not need another question. They do not need someone telling them how to fix everything. They simply need to feel that someone is beside them. And if you want to understand why this third place matters so much, keep listening, because this is where the entire message comes together. The real power is not in where you place your lips. The real power is in what your presence communicates. It says, you do not have to impress me right now. You do not have to prove anything. You can simply be here. And when affection comes from genuine love, mutual trust, and emotional safety, that simple moment can become a memory both people carry for years. That's the part I want you to remember. Not the technique, the meaning, not the trick, the truth. Because the right relationship does not require you to manipulate someone into staying. It gives both people reasons to choose each other freely, again and again, a settling, a staying, because, sister, that is the place where many men were taught as little boys that they had to hide themselves away. That is where the first heartbreak can live. That is where disappointment can settle. That is where the version of him almost nobody ever met can remain hidden. The gentle boy, the dreamer, the creative spirit, the poet, the softness that life slowly taught him to cover. That younger version of him may still be there, waiting to feel safe again. And when your lips rest over that place, when you stay there long enough for him to feel your warmth and your presence, something deeply emotional can happen. He may remember who he was before life taught him to become guarded. He may remember what it felt like to be cared for without having to earn every bit of it. For one moment, he may remember that he is more than a role, more than a job title, more than a paycheck, more than a provider, more than the person everyone expects to stay strong. He is a human being with a heart. And that is what this gesture can communicate. Baby, I want you to understand how rare genuine tenderness can be. Many men go through years without experiencing affection that feels completely free of pressure or expectation. Their partners may show physical affection, but very few moments are created simply to say, I care about the person inside you. I am not only interested in the man everyone else sees, I want to know the man you are when nobody is watching. That message can reach somewhere very deep, and before we go further, stay with me, because the next story makes this even clearer. Let me tell you about a woman named Tasha. Tasha had been dating a man for 2 years. He was a good man, he was dependable, he was stable, but emotionally he was so closed off that she sometimes felt like she was in a relationship with a kind stranger. She could not get him to open up. She could not get him to share his fears. She could not get him to let her fully into his inner world. Then one evening, after they had been lying together, watching television, she turned toward him. She rested her head against his chest and quietly listened to his heartbeat for a moment. Then, without making a speech or asking for anything, she placed a gentle kiss over his heart and stayed there for a moment. It was not meant to be provocative. It was not meant to get a reaction. It was simply a quiet expression of affection and care. At first, he did not move. He became completely still. He said nothing. She even wondered if she had made him uncomfortable. Then she felt his hand slowly move to the back of her head. She felt him swallow. And then she felt something warm touch her cheek. He was crying quietly. The tears were falling into her hair while he remained almost completely still. After a long silence, he whispered, "My mother used to do something like that when I was little. She would hold me close and tell me she loved me. Nobody has touched me there since she passed away." And in that moment, Tasha understood something. She had not simply been waiting for him to talk more. She had been looking for a way to create enough emotional safety for him to choose vulnerability. Sometimes the door is not locked forever. Sometimes people simply need to know it is safe to open it. And that is the deeper meaning behind the third gesture. It is not magic. It is not a secret trick. It is the emotional message behind it. It can say, I care about who you are underneath everything. That is the part many people miss. The value is not in the physical action itself. The value is in the trust, timing, affection, and meaning that already exist between two people. Now let me speak directly to you, woman to woman, sister to sister. I need you to hear something that may change the way you look at yourself. You have been taught for years that love must be earned. You have been taught to compete for attention. You have been taught to prove your value. You have been taught to become quieter when someone wanted less from you, to become smaller when someone felt threatened, and to twist yourself into whatever shape the last relationship demanded. And you are tired. I know you are tired, because a woman who is constantly trying to earn love from someone who should be grateful to know her eventually becomes exhausted in places nobody can see. So hear me clearly, you are not too much. You have not been too emotional simply because you wanted honesty. You have not been too needy because you wanted consistency. You have not been asking for too much simply because the wrong person could not give you enough. There is a huge difference between being too much for someone and being with someone who is simply not capable of meeting you where you are. Let that sink in. Because sometimes the problem was never your value. Sometimes the problem was the person you are asking to recognize it. A healthy, emotionally mature man does not need you to disappear in order to feel comfortable. He does not need you to become smaller so he can feel bigger. He can appreciate tenderness without demanding that you sacrifice yourself. He can receive affection and still respect your boundaries. He can be vulnerable without making you responsible for repairing everything inside him. That is the kind of connection worth building. So the question is not whether these gestures can create a beautiful moment. Of course they can. The deeper question is whether you are giving them to someone who has earned your trust. Because if you offer your deepest tenderness to someone who disappears, gives you mixed signals, keeps you waiting, or only returns when it is convenient, all the affection in the world cannot create a healthy relationship. You cannot love someone into becoming ready. You cannot nurture someone into becoming consistent. And you cannot kiss away behavior that repeatedly tells you they do not value your heart. Remember that. Your tenderness is valuable, but it is not a tool for rescuing unavailable people. You are not a hotel where someone arrives whenever they need comfort. You are not a rest stop where someone can refill their emotional tank and continue down the road without considering you. You are a whole person. You have standards. You have boundaries. You have dreams. You have a life that matters. And anyone who enters that life should understand that access to your deepest affection is something built through trust, not something automatically owed because they asked for it. A healthy relationship is not about one person giving endlessly while the other simply receives. It is about two people showing up, two people choosing, two people making space for each other. That is the sanctuary. And a sanctuary has a door. It has boundaries. It has standards. Not because love is cold, but because love without boundaries can become self-abandonment. And baby, you have done enough abandoning yourself for people who never learned how to hold what you gave them. Now, here is where many women make a mistake. They hear something like this and immediately think, let me try it on the man I have been struggling with. Maybe this will finally make him commit. Maybe this will finally make him open up. Maybe this will finally make him choose me. Sister, stop right there. Do not use tenderness to convince a man to love you. Do not turn affection into an audition. Do not spend your emotional currency trying to persuade someone to stay. These gestures are not tools for winning an unavailable person. They are expressions of love within a relationship where both people are already choosing each other. Do you hear the difference? You do not offer your deepest tenderness because you hope someone will finally decide you are worthy. You offer it because the person has already shown through his actions that he values the relationship. That is a completely different position. If you are thinking about a specific man right now, a man who gives you crumbs, disappears for days, refuses to define the relationship, or keeps you trapped in uncertainty, close that door. Do not give him access to the deepest parts of you simply because you hope affection will change his mind. Give him clarity, give him distance, give yourself peace, because someone who cannot decide whether they want a place in your life should not automatically receive the privileges of someone who is committed to being there. That is not punishment, that is a boundary. And the moment you stop giving your most precious energy to people who have not earned it, you create room for something healthier to become visible. Think about it. When your hands are constantly full of the wrong relationship, you have no room to receive anything new. Your attention is occupied, your energy is drained, your judgment becomes cloudy. But when you finally say, I am done giving my deepest affection to people who have not earned my trust, something changes inside you. You become clearer, you become calmer, you stop chasing, you stop decoding every message, you stop wondering whether a delayed reply means something, you begin watching actions instead of creating stories. And that is when the right kind of person becomes easier to recognize. Let me tell you about a woman named Denise. Denise was 42 when she came to me. She had spent nearly 20 years moving from one relationship to another. And she told me, I keep giving everything I have to men who never fully show up. I am exhausted. I do not want to try anymore. I do not want to hope anymore. Maybe I am better off alone. And I told Denise something important. Peace by yourself is not a failure. In fact, it can be a powerful beginning. I said, before you close your heart to love forever, make yourself a promise. The next man who enters your life will not receive the deepest parts of you simply because he is interested. He will have to demonstrate over time that he is trustworthy. I told her to remember the three places: forehead, shoulder, heart. But more importantly, I told her to remember what they represented: comfort, recognition, and emotional connection. She could be kind, she could be warm, she could enjoy someone's company. But she did not need to hand over her deepest emotional access within days or weeks. She could watch, she could listen, she could pay attention to consistency, she could see whether his words matched his actions. She could see whether he respected her boundaries. She could see whether he showed up when life became difficult. She could see whether he wanted to build something real rather than simply enjoy what she gave. And that, sister, is the real lesson. Do not rush to give someone everything simply because you feel something. Let time reveal character. Let consistency reveal intention. Let actions reveal commitment, because the man who is right for you will not need you to destroy your standards in order to keep him. He will respect the standards that protect the woman he wants to build with. And when he proves himself through patience, honesty, consistency, and genuine care, your tenderness will no longer feel like something you are giving away. It will feel like something you are freely choosing to share. That is the difference between desperation and devotion. One says, "Please stay so I can feel worthy." The other says, "I choose you because you have shown me that my heart is safe here." Never forget that difference. It may save you years of pain.